Hi, everybody. Welcome back to The Limit Breakdown, where we break down the latest in TV, movies, and everything going on in entertainment. I'm your host, Migs.
I'm Sid.
And today we're going to be doing our review of the new DC movie, The Flash. And our too long didn't watch review of The Flash is Three Hearts. This movie was surprisingly funny. It had a good retelling of the Flashpoint storyline, even though it didn't stick to the source material. And it had a good amount of surprisingly well-placed cameos.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the CGI was god-awful.
Terrible.
Personally, Ezra Miller is not a good Barry Allen.
Hashtag not my Barry Allen.
And the ending essentially seemed pointless due to DC's direction that they're going. So, because of that, we gave it reluctantly a 3. Stick around after our intro for our deep dive and spoiler-filled review of The Flash featuring Ezra Miller. Welcome back, everybody, to The Limit Breakdown, and we're going to dive right into The Flash movie. Migs, what did you think of Ezra Miller's Flash?
I hate him.
Well, thanks for our review.
No. So look, all right. I'm gonna be completely honest here. I'm biased, obviously, because I think Ezra Miller, as a person, is a garbage pile. But that piece of it aside, I've never been a fan of his version of Barry Allen. It's very awkward. It's very like not even just it's
very like
nerdy. Yeah, it's
like,
just
the
version of Barry Allen that I'm familiar with is more in line with, like, say, the Grant Gustin from CW.
Yep.
Like that's the version of Barry Allen that I'm accustomed to. And Ezra Miller, he was just so annoying constantly. And even
both Ezra Millers.
Yeah, and the fact that you got two of them, right? And I guess that was kind of the point, to show the younger one being more annoying the older one, and all that. And then there was actually 3 versions of Barry Allen in the movie.
Oh yeah, technically.
But it just he never really worked for me. And then when you throw in all of the added baggage with everything that went on, it's just, I understand the decision for them to release this movie. They had invested entirely too much money into it. And
I understood at the end as well.
But it's I mean, if they make their money back, it's going to be barely.
So yeah, I agree with you. Ezra Miller, besides him personally, people have said that he worked his ass off for this movie. I can see there's a clear distinction between his older version of Barry Allen versus the younger version of Barry Allen. Like, he clearly made a distinction. He was like, this one is childish, still very young, like, oh, look at my superpowers. And then this other one was very serious, focused, which I will give him props to. Like, I will give credit where credit's due. Overall, I still don't, either version of Flash I didn't like. Flash is supposed to be like funny, joking around, which is fine, but at a certain point he is extremely smart. And he knows when, like, his quips are like funny quips here and there. It's not just like stupid stuff. Well,
the thing about it is, for me, it made him too much of a dork, too awkward, not even socially awkward, socially inept.
Yeah, he's like, I don't get along with people.
Just completely clueless. Like, that's not the Barry Allen that I've been accustomed to. Like I said, like you were saying, Barry Allen is supposed to be witty and funny and smart and intelligent, and the whole, fastest man alive thing kind of goes with that quick wit and that and that almost sarcasm. But it's just, he focused on this whole awkwardness thing.
Yeah. Now, I'm not sure if that was a writing decision from the writers or if that's something Ezra Miller brought to the table.
Yeah.
Regardless, I don't think Ezra Miller did a good job either way, even in the younger version of himself.
What I did like about the movie, and I'll say this, it wasn't like I absolutely hated his performance completely. There were several parts where I found myself enjoying and even kind of indulging in it. The phasing scenes were pretty amusing. And then
especially when he has to like jump up. Oh, that hurt. I'm so glad I cut my nails today. Especially when he has to jump up and hold them and go through those scenes. Hilarious. I thought that was a very, very funny gag. And then they brought it back at the end when he doesn't have powers and Batman has to take him up.
Yeah.
And he's trying to jump on Batman and Michael Keaton's like, no, that's not gonna happen.
I thought Michael Keaton was great. Yeah. I absolutely loved everything that they did with him, and in even towards the end where they kind of gave him almost like a old man Bruce Wayne kind of type arc. Yeah. Where he had kind of just given up and everything, and then he gets the motivation to put on the suit one more time, and
I agree, and I don't think he overplayed his part. They didn't give him too many lines, too many dialogues, too many action sequences to be like, oh, this is a Michael Keaton comeback. They gave him just enough to be important in the movie, and they pulled it back. And I thought it was the perfect amount of Michael Keaton's Batman to the movie. Like that, the ratio was well done.
The same thing with Supergirl too. I really thought that they were gonna be a lot more action sequences with her involved, and like you said, there was just enough to keep her relevant, but to not overshadow the Flash
and the actress Sasha Calle. I believe her last name is pronounced Calle. So Sasha Calle, I think she did a really good job.
She did
as Supergirl. She was very in this version of Supergirl. She's been kept in basically a room.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the darkest Superman stories because in this version of it, in the comics it happened to Clark.
Yeah,
but in this version of the story, like, she crash landed, the government took her and then realized how strong she was, so they kept her in a room locked up away from sunlight. So she was like malnutrition, unpowered. So
yeah, 100%. So I want to kind of do a comparison between Flashpoint in the comics, which is the original source material, to Flashpoint, more or less the Flash movie, right? I don't mind movies, TV shows taking their own spin on source material. I'm okay with that, depending on how they did it. I actually think they did a pretty good job.
I would agree with you.
If this was the original source material, I would have been satisfied.
Yeah.
They obviously huge differences, but I don't think it was distasteful.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the big differences, obviously, like we mentioned in the original source material, yes, Superman is captured by the government and kept in a room, but it's actually Superman.
Yeah.
In this one, they switched it to Supergirl. Right. And I thought that was perfectly fine. Doesn't disrupt the story.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things, actually, there are two big things. One is in this one, Batman is still Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things in the original Flashpoint Paradox is actually instead of Bruce Wayne's parents dying, Bruce himself dies, and his dad, Thomas, becomes Batman, and his mom becomes the Joker.
Yep.
Which I was expecting that, but they didn't. They kept Bruce, and I was like, you know what? Perfectly fine. It went along pretty well. Another big thing is obviously in the original source material, there are no two Flashes. Yeah. There's only one Barry Allen, and he doesn't have powers. Yeah. Well, when he gets there, he doesn't have. This one, there is Barry Allen. He gets his powers, but the original Barry does not. But I think overall, source material-wise, they did pretty well to manipulate it just enough to go along with the story.
And I think also the things that they didn't include were also helpful to not make the movie feel overloaded, because they didn't include the stuff with Diana and Aquaman, with the war between the Atlanteans and the Amazonians, because that would have been a whole nother thing in itself. And the funny little scene after, or I guess post credit scene with Aquaman was funny. With him falling over drunk.
This is my bed now. I died at that scene. I was really surprised to see a cameo from Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I'm glad, but it was kind of funny because she's making cameos and everything. She was in Shazam. So when she made I'm a huge fan of Gal Gadot. I'm a huge fan of theme song. And when I'm not gonna say it. I can't say it on TV. I really enjoyed the shots of Wonder Woman. They were good. Great cameo from her. Another great cameo. Obviously, in the movie starts off with Ben Affleck as Batfleck, infamously. Because
we got 3 different versions of Batman in this one.
We got Michael Keaton as Batman. He does 2 famous lines. If you missed it, so it's one most famous line. Yeah, I'm Batman, which is the most famous one. The second one, if you didn't catch it, is when they ask you like, "Hey, we need help," and he's like, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts."
Yeah.
Did you catch that reference?
Oh yeah, of course.
So the reference is from Jack Nicholson.
Yes.
When he is Joker in his movies, and he's like, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts." So
let me correct you.
Sorry, I'm off on the quote.
Well, no, it was Michael Keaton. It was Michael Keaton saying that to the Joker because he had come in and he was, I think, kidnapping the reporter, and it was Bruce Wayne in the room, not Batman. And so he gets up in front of the Joker and he's like, "Oh, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts!" And he starts like smashing stuff.
Yeah, so that was a great reference. Another great cameo, which came at the end of the movie. So now Barry is like, "Mom has to die." Goes back. He goes back to his real world, and Bruce Wayne's like, "Yeah, you did a good job. I'm rolling up." As soon as his car rolls up, car door opens, I'm like, "That's gonna be somebody different." And it turns out to be George Clooney from his Batman days.
Yeah,
He only had one, right?
Yeah, he only had one Batman,
Batman
and Robin. Yeah,
Batman and Robin. And George Clooney is the Batman.
Yeah.
So I guess another reason why they kept the movie, because if they hired him, there's no way they would have canceled that movie. Fantastic cameo. I thought that was a very, very well placed cameo.
So getting into the nitty gritty of the movie. All right. I don't know what the name of the actress is who played Barry Allen's mother, but she did a fantastic job.
She did a really good job. I agree.
She did a fantastic job. The scenes with her and Ezra were really emotional. The one
chemistry between them.
Yeah.
Great.
The one final scene that they had when he's, when he had gone back to basically to make the change that would save her, and then he goes back to undo it after his previous self had already done it, basically to fix the timeline. Speaking of timelines too, I thought it was really, really neat about the Back to the Future Easter egg. Yeah.
Oh man, that joke was so good.
Yeah. So he's like, Michael J. Fox is Marty McFly. He's like, Michael J. Fox wasn't Marty McFly.
Yeah.
And God, I'm gonna have to look it up again. I forget the name of the actor.
Yeah, I don't remember who they said, but yeah, it was really funny. It would have been funny. Well, I guess Michael J. Fox can't do it because his disorder. But it'd been funny if he was the one who was like, Michael J. Fox wasn't in Back to the Future. That would have been funny. But yeah, that little gag was actually pretty good. That he changed that small of a thing.
Yeah. So it was. But going back to what I was talking about with the emotional beat with his mom, and of course, if you know anything about the Flash in itself, it's kind of a paradox with Flash's arch nemesis, the Reverse Flash, Eobard Thawne, which he's from the future, and basically he idolizes the Flash, and he ends up basically replicating the same accident that Barry did to give himself powers, and he goes back in time and kills Barry's mom. So I was a little confused because I kind of thought that they were going to do the Reverse Flash thing and have the younger version of Barry Allen become the Reverse Flash, especially towards the end when he started picking up the spike and just killing people. Like, I was like, oh, I thought that it was going to be It was they were gonna do that, but they didn't, and they never answered the question of who killed Barry's mom.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's probably still gonna be Eobard Thawne. But it doesn't matter because the likelihood of them making a Flash 2 is slim to none.
Yeah.
Which leads me into the biggest criticism overall is, I mean, for what it was, the movie was enjoyable. We gave it a 3, but ultimately this is
reluctantly a 3.
Yeah, this is a swan song to a dying franchise, just because the DCEU has just dropped the ball on so many levels. And had they been putting out content like this, I don't think they would be in the position they are, in which they have to reboot.
Yeah, fair. I agree. This movie, I think it tried, and I think it could have done really well, but there were certain things that didn't matter, right? So, for example, I'll give you... So, the story in these matter. And at the end of the day, if the story of the villain or something or the other isn't as grave, then the viewers, us, don't feel connected. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, when he's like, when they're fighting Zod, and Supergirl keeps dying, and so does Michael Keaton's Batman, and they're like, okay, certain things have to be done for it to progress in life, or else it's going to break the fabric of reality. And then once he goes back, he realizes it's that Barry that's been doing it for so long. He's the one that's become this evil time entity, whatever. So he's like, you know what? I'm just going to go back in time and let my mom die. That's the whole scene happens. And then he's like, well, I'm going to change the tomato cans from bottom to top. Yeah. Right? So he changes, he lets his mom die, but he changes a small thing, which ended the movie, instead of Ben Affleck being the Batman as George Clooney. But it just seemed like all of that for nothing. Well, right? And then nothing changed. Per se.
Well, and that's, I think, part of what is going to be explored, because so towards the end of the movie, when he's about to go back to reverse the whole thing, you see the incursions happening, right? And all the different, which we didn't even talk about all of those cameos. Adam West Batman, Christopher Reeves Superman, Nicolas Cage Superman.
For anyone that doesn't know, Nicolas Cage was supposed to be Superman in the late 90s?
Yeah, there was mid 90s.
He was supposed to. He auditioned for Superman. They even wrote a script for him.
Yeah, they had the part. They even did a screen test with him wearing the suit.
Yeah, and at the very end, they just scrapped it, and that's where that Superman comes from. Yeah, is a long mullet hair looking Nicolas Cage Superman.
But but you had all of the incursions, all of the different realities and different versions of all of these DC heroes. And so he was realizing that, like, by allowing these things to continue to happen, that he was not just affecting his reality, but he was affecting all of these other realities. And so he went back and he did that one, what he thought was a little change. And now it wasn't like spelled out, but I think the implication is he realized that even though he has this power to be able to make those changes, he can't really do it because he doesn't know what the actual impact is going to be. And he had figured that out now with even something as small as moving the tomato from the bottom shelf to the top shelf. Now his friend is gone. Like, yes, there is a Bruce Wayne, but his Bruce Wayne is gone. So, and there's no telling whether or not they have the same history, whether or not it's, so it was a cool Easter egg, as far as it being George Clooney, but like
moving forward, what are they going to do with it?
They're not going to do anything with it.
They can't have George Clooney be Batman again. No, so if they do make a sequel, either he's not going to be in it, or they're gonna have to figure something out.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why the movie feels pointless, because at the end of the day, they're not going to do anything with it. Like, I don't, as controversial as Ezra Miller has been, I don't foresee them continuing with him. So I think if they were smart, they would find a way to introduce Wally West as a new Flash.
That would be fantastic.
And then you don't have to worry about recasting. You don't have to worry about any of that. You can just start with a new character. And I mean, they're already going, to a certain degree with some of those newer characters anyway, because with Batman Brave and the Bold, it's gonna be Damian Wayne, Robin, not Dick Grayson. So Dick Grayson, I'm assuming, is already going to be established as Nightwing.
Yeah. So yeah, that'd be interesting to see.
It's so frustrating for me. Like, look, I love Marvel, and I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, but I also really enjoy DC. I feel like the DC stories have so much more depth to them that they
100%.
Just haven't gotten the same amount of love.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. I think it's because DC individual stories are a lot better than Marvel. Marvel does really well at making these grander stories. And DC's better at individualized stories, right? And they should be just doing that, making one-off movies like they did The Batman with the.
Well, I've also always felt that like DC has better villains and Marvel has better heroes.
Yeah. True. That is true. They do have more compelling heroes, yeah. Fair.
But any final thoughts?
Overall, movie was okay. Ezra Miller was okay. I did enjoy the story. CGI was horrendous, as we mentioned. And I would wait till this movie comes out on streaming. Would not pay money to go see it. One of the biggest things that I found weird and interesting at the same time, which I forgot to mention, was Ezra Miller's weird running. I did like his stance that he had to take every time. I thought that was cool. It added a little touch to it. Now, apparently this comes from speed skaters.
Yeah.
Speed skaters do this. They whip their arms but actual runners don't.
Yeah.
So why they did that, I'm not sure. Maybe it's a creative choice. I don't know. Whatever. But those are my final thoughts.
It did look hilarious when he lost his Speed Force power and he's running and he's running all.
See, it had funny moments. It had when he wears the mask, when the other Ezra Miller, other Flash wears the mask for the first time, and he turns and he's like, funny scene. And then they killed it with like something stupid. But overall, I reluctantly gave it a 3.
Yeah, agree with the majority of your points. It was enjoyable for what it was, but ultimately, it's going to be another failed DC project, and I'm just excited to finally be putting this chapter of the DC stories to bed. I'm ready to see what James Gunn does going forward. I'm ready for them to reboot with some sort of a plan.
Well, they have one more DC movie left. No, 2. Blue Beetle and Aquaman 2.
So, and so our wait continues.
Now, I don't know if Blue Beetle is part of the whole Gods and Monsters story arc that James Gunn is planning. I'm not sure.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, that Blue Beetle is supposed to be the first of the new DC movies. Okay. So I think technically the last one is going to be Aquaman.
Okay, fair enough. But those are our thoughts on the new Flash movie with Ezra Miller. Let us know what you thought in the comments below, whether you like, dislike, any other thing.
And as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It helps us out in the algorithm. Let us know what you thought of this movie as well. Let us know if you think our takes were trash or whatever you want to tell us. But as always, stay tuned for more content, and we appreciate you guys tuning in. Catch you next time.